Hello, everybody, and welcome to another pre-baseball, post-football episode of Phil and the Mic. As always, I keep messing that up. I'm Darrin Michael, and with me, the man, the myth, the legend. You might have seen him yesterday on a lot of the videos. He was the guy that was helping a drunk Tom Brady walk yesterday at the Super Bowl celebration, Mr. Phil Calise.
What's up, my man? How you doing?
Dude, how was the Super Bowl party?
Very quiet, particularly as we were all rooting for the Chiefs. So it was a little mellow in the Calise household. But we've only done 42 of these, so you botching the intro.
Oh, man, what is up with that, man?
Maybe,
you know what? I wish we had the kind of podcast where we believed in going back and editing and redoing things, but you know what? No, we're just going to go with it because it's just, I don't know. It just shows, it makes you look better. It makes me look worse. It is what it is.
We certainly don't believe in editing, planning, evaluating our performance. We don't believe in any of that stuff.
You know what? Today I think was a little bit different because, right before we're on the call and right before I hit record, I said, okay, Phil, this is what we're doing today. And you're like, okay, great. So, it's
you're like, I got a lot of notes. I got a lot of good things to say. I'm like, well, let's do it.
Listen, people don't understand, man. You are really quick. You are on your game. I mean, it's impressive because I throw stuff at you all the time and you literally have no idea what's coming.
Which does make this a case study for those journalism majors of what not to do.
That's right.
At all. Like if you follow us around for a week, you'll know what not to do. But at the same time, you will become an excellent debater. You'll become an excellent, quick on your feet, so you get some residual things you learn out of the deal.
That's true. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. Not only that, now that people can see us, my biggest question is, how is it this is on my face and it's been like months and you shaved what, yesterday morning and you've already got that on your face?
No, this is a couple weeks,
But that mustache, man, I am so jealous. Look at how splotchy this thing is. Yours comes in. I mean, you look like a man. I look like I'm, kind of starting puberty. I got like that upper, like pubic hair lip
if you were
going
just starting
on.
Puberty, we'd have to talk to your family about what's going on.
That would be a problem. All right. Yeah. It's
so let's get the elephant out of the room right now. Okay.
All right.
That little banner that I see virtually, that little first place banner that's sitting to your left, my right. It's a first place ribbon. It's not a participation trophy though for you kids at home. This is a legitimate winner right here. This is SBD. This is Super Bowl Darrin. This is the only person. I cannot hear you at the moment. That's
because I'm not talking. I'm just got my finger up in the air.
That's how you
to let everybody know
virtually.
As they're watching, just in case they don't see the ribbon and they want to know.
You screw your partner virtually as you mouth things, and I think I just can't hear you. That's a good way to do it. But you know what the thing is, you were the only one that went out and you stuck to your guns. A prediction you made back in August. Before the season, before we even knew for sure there'd be a football season, it was still teetering. And you said to me, and I don't quote because I don't remember, Phil, here's the thing. Tom Brady's going down to Tampa. He's going to bring some of his buddies with him. He's going to turn a fledgling bad organization inside out, upside down. They're not only going to just power their way through the NFC. They're going to meet the juggernaut Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the unbeatable Mahomesies, they're gonna win the Super Bowl. 43-year-old Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Once he just discards himself of the disgust that is Bill Belichick, and he's going to get away from the cold in New England, and he's going to go down to sunny Tampa and win his 7th ring. And I think I said, and I don't quote again, you're out of your mind.
It was something
okay.
Like that, yeah.
Tampa, there'll be a nice story. They're the hot pick. People want to think that's the sexy team to like right now. They're going to win maybe 10 games. They'll make the playoffs. It'll be a nice story, and then they'll go out. And they did not do that. So
I appreciate
kudos
that.
to you for nailing the Super Bowl prediction and then having the guts to stick to it on that day when, let's face it, most of us didn't agree. It was hard to envision the Chiefs losing when they don't lose much.
Well,
And
yeah,
they got
yeah,
pounded.
a couple things that I wanted to mention there. One is that I might not have gotten the score right, but I did predict that the Bucks would score 31 points, and they did score 31 points.
You did do that. That's true. You
That
did do that.
is that is impressive. And also, if I can think back to that date, and I don't remember which podcast it was, but I think it was more like Darrin, you're crazy. The Buccaneers are not going to win the Super Bowl because the Dallas Cowboys will be there in their place. Just wanted to say that out loud because that makes me feel even better.
Dak. What happened to Dak? Where is Dak? Yeah. I'm
Well,
still
listen,
waiting on Dak.
we got all kinds of Super Bowl stuff to get into, but the fun thing and the thing that I really enjoy about doing the podcast this way is that now we can show things on the podcast, which I think is exciting.
That is exciting.
So can you see my screen, Phil?
I can see your screen.
Excellent, excellent. So do you see the picture that's on the screen?
Yes, I do.
And do you have any idea who that picture is of?
It looks the smallest person in that picture is a young 7 or 8-year-old Darrin Michael.
This picture is from 1981, and this is one of my favorite all-time pictures. So I was almost 8 at the time. So
look at me hitting it almost on the head.
So yeah, that was impressive. So that's me with the dark shirt and the sexy legs and the blue socks with the sneakers, and that's my little brother in front. So as you see, there's a guy there, and you can't really see him. That's my grandfather, and he's kneeling down. He's got that long stick, and you can't really make it out, but right here is a baseball.
Nice.
We were in West Palm Beach, and so we're walking around their spring training facility, and all these minor leaguers are playing here on these side fields. You can't get access to this anymore. Of course, this was almost 40 years ago. And so my grandfather sees this ball, and he's trying to get it. So he can't get it. He's trying. So this guy comes walking up, and basically he sees what's going on, and he calls to one of the minor leaguers over there. He's like, "Hey, you, come over here. Give these people this ball." And the guy comes over, he gives us the ball, and my grandfather's like, "Thank you so much. Would you possibly sign this ball for me?" And the guy's like, "Sure, I'll sign it." So I'll sign the ball, and sure enough, that guy is Hank Aaron.
I couldn't tell. That's what I.
Yeah.
I was gonna throw a guess out there, but
so that's Hank Aaron. Now this was back. I mean, I was a card fanatic back then too, autograph fanatic. That's kind of when I first started back in '81 at this thing. I have a program that's signed by like 50 guys from the Braves team, and
I could see that making an impact on a 7, almost 8-year-old boy.
Yeah,
changing his life forever.
Yeah, and you can see here, my mom is literally like handing him a pen. And she's got a card. I have a card signed by Hank Aaron that I got that day, and he signed that ball, which I still have in my possession. So, being
by the way,
that
your mom looking snazzy.
that is a late 70s, early 80s look if I've ever seen one. Look at that hair.
She's ready to go to the disco.
I know, right?
That's cool. I like it, Mrs. Michaels. Way to go.
Next time I talk to her, I'm going to see if she'll be willing to change her hair back to that. So anyway, so that was one of my first baseball memories, and I wanted to bring that up about Hank Aaron because it was such an incredible memory and memory with my grandfather too, who's no longer with us. Just a really, really special time. You can see my brother's got some great plaid shorts on too. Back in the early '80s, it was an interesting time.
Hey, the length of those shorts, believe it or not, has come all the way back to today.
Isn't that weird?
It's a lot of shorts out there now, 40 years later. Coming
you know
back.
what? Same with my mom with the high-waisted jeans. All the girls are wearing the mom jeans now.
Everything old comes new and back and forth.
See, that's what I hate. I hate when the styles come back that I just don't like. I mean, it's like, okay, we lived them once, didn't like them. Did you have to bring them back?
Yeah, your mom looks ready to go right from the ball field to the disco. I like it. I like it.
So that was story number one. Story number two. As you can see, this is an autograph reply that I got, right? So I sent some cards to a guy named Clarence Scott. I don't know, man. I'm running out of cards to send guys, so I'm just going through like my old cards and just send them. So I sent him a few cards from the 70s. He was a Cleveland Browns safety for like a dozen years, right? And this is the response I get. Darrin, give me a call. God bless. I look forward to hearing from you. And he signed it, call me. And then he wrote his phone number twice. So here's my question. Now, you've never heard of Clarence Scott, of course. I really don't know much about Clarence Scott. So, one, do I call him? And two, do I see if somehow he would join us on the podcast?
100%. But who is Clarence Scott?
You'll have to look him up. It's not important. I just thought that was kind of odd. Like my letter was, hey, I've been a fan of yours ever since I learned about your great career playing for my Cleveland Browns. Like that's what I wrote now. And so my first thought is, well, what happens if he starts asking me all kinds of questions about the Cleveland Browns and I know nothing?
You're gonna have to do a little homework.
I'm gonna have to. So I don't know, man. I'm still a little apprehensive, but maybe you and I can call him together sometime.
We can call him on the podcast.
Maybe we'll call him on the podcast. There's an idea. So I thought that was interesting. Another thing, have you advanced your Karate Kid watching activities yet or not? Are you still on like season 1, episode 2 or something? I don't even know what.
I believe I'm headed towards episode 5.
Okay, all right. So you're getting there. So interesting story. Somebody that we know, somebody that my wife works with. His brother is an ex-professional football player, and his son has gotten into acting and modeling and things like that. And so he actually got to be an extra on Karate Kid, which is filmed in Atlanta.
Oh, is it filmed in Atlanta? I didn't know that.
It's filmed in Atlanta. So this is actually, I have a couple pictures from the set. And
Nice.
This is the set. It says, you can see here, it says LaRussa Auto Group. And then here's another one of the cars that are in Mr. Miyagi's parking lot.
Nice.
So kind of cool that he's doing that. So I thought that was kind of cool. I just wanted to show it to you. But what I want to pivot and go into a couple quick hits, real quick things, and get your thoughts on some of these things. So let's go with number 1, right? Pearl Mining Company. Is this Pearl Milling Company? Is this going to get you to utilize the old Aunt Jemima since it's now Pearl Milling Company?
So what would have been a very smart idea to me would have been to write something similar so people just never noticed it, because when you first see it,
yeah,
because of the colors, I think you would just grab it thinking you're buying the old Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
But it so stands out, Pearl Milling Company, and that's it doesn't flow from your mouth. It's just, that's a rough name, you know?
Yeah.
So I do see somebody going, oh, Aunt Jemima, and then looking and going, ooh, give me some Mrs. Buttersworth. I'm out of here.
The funny thing is, man, I honestly never even knew people were offended by Aunt Jemima. Even after like the whole story broke and everything, I still didn't hear anybody that was offended by it. So I got to be honest with you. This new container, that offends me. The name, that offends me. Pearl Milling Company, that's offensive to me. And I think
it's a bad name, by the way.
It really is. I don't know who came up with that, but I didn't like it. So it's interesting that you feel that way. Now, how about this for a quick hit? My man, J.J. Watt, who, let's be honest, man, even though he's injured and he's coming to the end of his career, I still think he'd look good in a Jets uniform. But just happened, man. He and the Texans have mutually agreed to part ways. What do you think of that? And you do you think this guy still has some life left in his football career?
I do. I think he's got a couple years left. I think he's the kind of guy that will get rejuvenated by a move. And I think he'll be very selective in the spot he picks. It's not about the money. I think he's chasing a ring.
Yeah,
so I can see him, Tampa Tom.
So what you're saying is you don't think he's going to sign with the Jets?
I mean, I'm just thinking if I'm J.J. Watt, may not be the place I want to run to chase a ring in the next 2 years. I could think of, I don't know, 1, 2, or 26 better teams.
Easily, right? Easily. Yeah. Another interesting story. I like how Mark Cuban came out and said, "Oh no, we're not going to be playing the national anthem." He wants to take the protest one step further, which is his right. I mean that. But what really got me excited is the NBA finally put their foot down and said, "You know what? you're playing the national anthem, whether you like it or not. You're playing it. So,
Yeah.
it's the NBA. These big, the NBA just they don't stand up to anybody. I mean, they basically, if this was LeBron saying it, I'll bet you that they wouldn't require the national anthem. But because it's somebody else, they're saying, hey, let's get ahead of this thing. No, you can't do that. I personally think that's the right thing. I think the NBA needs to show that they've got some muscle here, and they need to show that, hey, this has nothing to do with protest. This has to do with the fact that we're Americans. We play in America. We've always played the national anthem. It doesn't signify anything other than unity. I think that's what the big thing is now. It's not protest. It's got to be unity.
Yeah, I think all organizations really are going to want to move away from this, play hot potato with this thing and get it off the plate as fast as they can.
Yeah.
It's just a lightning rod topic that I think everybody would much prefer go away if you're running a multi-billion-dollar business. It's just, I don't think they want this looming another year and another year. And I think if what was leaked out about Cuban saying just ban the national anthem, and I think Adam Silver is a bright guy, he's made taken the NBA to places and made more money than he's done a good job since Stern.
Yeah.
I think he just wants this to go away. I think he wants them to protest things, but not protest, I should say. I think he wants the organization to make changes and affect change where they think they can. But I think the national anthem and things like this, I think they all want to move past it. So I think if they can do that, and then this year with this move, I think it's good just in general. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I agree. I was happy to hear that, and we'll see what comes out of it. Next, the Pouncey twins have announced this. I guess they like to do everything together. That they're both retiring. And I don't know how much you know about the Pouncey twins, but they were both centers. Although they're identical twins, one was drafted a year before the other one. The one on the right, Marquise, he actually played 10 years. He was a Pro Bowler 9 times. Now, I know it's tough to get into the Hall of Fame as a center, but 9-time Pro Bowler out of 10 years seems to me like that's pretty much a lock. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not right away, but he'll eventually. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So not only that, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, combined they played 19 years and they made 13 Pro Bowls. So I would have to say that's a pretty successful twin brother combination. Probably the best twin brothers. Maybe the Barbers would be up there too, but an impressive career for these guys. Not only that, they also set the record for most combined tattoos for twin brothers in the NFL. So congratulations on that record also. That
nice.
was just announced. Yeah, I know. A couple more things, man. And this really upsets me more than anything, but I can't stand the littlest ball. And it pains me to say that he's actually been much better than I anticipated. The guy is averaging 14.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, 6.1 assists. And the most shocking thing of them all is he's actually shooting 43.8% from the field, which is actually solid for a guard. So, man,
the little ball is better than the rest of the balls for sure.
You know what? Listen,
they always say the youngest kid's the best, right?
Well, this is what I'm actually hoping for, to be honest with you. I'm hoping that he does become this incredible stud. And before he signs his next contract, he says, all right, I am not going to sign with you until you bring on LiAngelo, middle ball, you bring on big ball. I want to play with those two guys, and Daddy Ball has to be the GM. So that's what I'm waiting for.
Power forward.
That's what I'm waiting for. Yeah, because as soon as you bring those guys in, they're going to win a trophy. So that makes sense. The trophy is for most ball brothers on one team.
Let's not be a hater. The kid's off to a very good start. Let's just appreciate.
It just upsets me. And then last but not least, man, I was excited to see this. I sent out a LinkedIn invite to Terrell Davis, and last night he accepted. So does that mean that he and I are buddies now? I mean, can I reach out to him and talk to him? You think I can get him on the podcast now? I'm also connected to Trent Dilfer and Carl Mecklenburg, if you didn't know that too also.
Shout out to Mecklenburg and Terrell.
So pretty impressive stuff there if you ask me. So some quick hits, man. I'm enjoying the whole video thing and being able to post some stuff, man. I think that's exciting. So some
We're
good stuff.
evolving. We're
Well, some
evolving.
good stuff. Listen, man, I hope it doesn't bother you that I got my number one ribbon on there. I might keep it up there for the rest of my life, to be honest with you, because I called nothing else correctly.
It's true. It's really true. So I said to you earlier this week when we were having a little phone chat, I said, you're going to get all the credit you deserve. When you can nail a preseason prediction, both teams, and get the winning team at the end, that's a heck of a job. The only thing missing for you was actually dropping a couple shekels and making some money on the deal.
Yeah, I know.
That's
seriously.
what you were missing in the equation, but
I know.
good job.
Well, it is
That's
what it
why
is.
that's the ribbon you got up there virtually is all you got.
I know that's all I get out of it. That's all right. I'll take it. Because honestly, to hear those words come out of your mouth actually means more to me than money. So I appreciate that.
Whew, that's a big compliment.
I
Thanks.
appreciate that.
I appreciate you for saying that.
Yeah. So let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into it. So we all made the Super Bowl predictions. We had a great show talking about everything and what happened. I mean, it was such a dominating performance by the Buccaneers. I mean, the Chiefs didn't even score a touchdown. I don't know if they've had a game all season where they didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, and you always do that thing where when you're wrong about something, or when you try to think back, like, why didn't I nail this prediction, or why was I off on this?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder to see. In this instance, it really got back to what football always is about, which is we always talk about it. Defensive pass rushers can wreck a game. They can totally change. You can say this team is better. They have more skill positions. They got the better quarterback. They do this better. They do that better. But if you can't hold up on the line, everything else becomes a problem, right? When Tom Brady lost twice to the Giants, they wrecked those games with the pass rush. When the Seattle Seahawks beat the top offensive Denver Broncos, even with an aging Peyton Manning, they wrecked the game with their defense, right? They wrecked the game with exotic blitzes. They wrecked the game with their front four.
Yeah.
They did everything, So in this, I think the game really comes down to this. We knew the Chiefs had offensive line issues. It wasn't a far stretch after watching the Bucs do what they did with their pass rush to Aaron Rodgers and to Breeze, and knowing that they definitely had the better line. It wasn't a stretch to think they were going to wreak some havoc on Mahomes. The stretch most people didn't think would be that Mahomes wouldn't figure it out, because he's been able to figure it out his whole career. And he's been able to do things athletically that nobody else is able to do. And so I think, even though it was easy, you mentioned it on the podcast, Eric Fisher's out. It wasn't just Eric Fisher. That was the latest one. They had lost their right tackle for the year earlier in the season.
That's right.
And they had been down another offensive lineman. So this was the final straw they couldn't overcome. And most of us dummies that picked the Chiefs to win just kind of blindly said, well, I've never seen Mahomes fail. He's not going to fail. He'll figure it out. But logically, it would have been fair to say they're going to have a problem blocking. Where I blame the Chiefs, because they can't do anything about the personnel. They were overmatched on the line. Totally overmatched. The Bucs were hot, and the Bucs defense bullied them. Where I blame the Chiefs, and where I specifically blame Andy Reid, who I think has not gotten the blame he should get, and he deserves more blame than he's gotten, is he stubbornly didn't change their game plan.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And he didn't have the foresight to realize what us dummies that made predictions taking the Chiefs would be, which was, we're going to have trouble blocking. He didn't run the football nearly enough to take the heat off Mahomes. And then in the second half, despite being down, 21-6 at half, they came out and ran the ball right away, if you remember, with some success.
Yeah.
Then got stuck and had to kick a field goal and never went back to running it again.
That's right.
Now,
that's right.
The game gets out of hand, it becomes harder to run. But they needed to take the heat off Mahomes, and instead he threw 50-something passes or upwards of 50 passes, and he got beat up, and they didn't come up with any answers. So I blame some pre-game preparation for not knowing we're going to have trouble blocking, pass blocking in particular. and they didn't make adjustments. They also assumed, like we did, Mahomes is going to figure it out.
Yeah.
He's going to
Yeah.
make the
Yeah.
move. He's going to make the play he has to make. And this time he didn't. This time he was beaten down.
Yeah. Something that I thought was really interesting is that, you know, there were just no wide receivers that were open. You had, Tampa. I mean, Hill went crazy the first time that they played, and he didn't get many looks. He didn't get many touches in that game, and he didn't do anything. I mean, if it wasn't for Kelsey, they wouldn't have really done much in as far as receiving. So
And
I think it's
they made mistakes. It's fair to say there was a handful of plays in that game. Won that game. This is nothing to take away from Tampa. There was a handful of plays in that game, whether it be early in the game, Mahomes makes an athletic throw into the end zone, and
Yep.
Tyreek Hill could have made what would have probably been considered a bit of a circus catch, but it was in his hands. He didn't make it.
Definitely. That's
On
true.
a big
That's
third down, Kelsey flat dropped a 25-yard catch
That
early
was
in the game.
that was uncanny because he
So
doesn't.
that was two that right off the top of my head I could think
Yeah,
about. Your best
yeah,
two
yeah.
players had the ball in their hands, dropped it. They got called for some absolutely terrible, I don't mean bad officiating, I mean boneheaded defensive penalties.
Yeah,
They went off sides on a punt and gave the Bucs the ball back.
I
They
saw
lined
that.
up off sides. I mean, and then they went down and scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean, the
yeah.
Chiefs played like they had never been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Bucs played like the team, and don't get me wrong, they're a veteran team that was on a losing franchise. So whatever, that's a group that mostly had been there, but they played like the experienced team, and the Chiefs played tight early. But Mahomes did make some acrobatic throws, and they didn't make catches for him that could have made the game closer. But listen, at the end of the day, Tampa Tom Brady, the man, the myth, the legend. You call it to me as a joke. That actually is a good phrase for him for real. He is that guy.
You know what? I wanna talk about Tom a little bit, and before we start talking about him, I just wanted to play this video because I think this is just great. So here we got Tom, probably a little intoxicated at this time. He's got two of his kids behind him, and he's got the Lombardi Trophy. And there's a bunch of people sitting there. He throws it, and it gets caught. Jeez, I mean, wow.
A little backspin, little reverse action. That wasn't an easy catch either, by the way.
That's all that I'm saying, man. Is
if you see the point of the Lombardi Trophy is kind of coming down at the wrong time, so you got to get over it to make the catch. That was a good catch.
Let's just say something, all right? When you've just won your first Super Bowl, you don't throw that thing. You've won your seventh. You know what? I can throw it. Not only that, I guess he knows his receiver is a sure-handed guy. He's going to catch the ball. Why not throw it?
By the way, that catch, that receiver was about as open as all they were on that day. So
yeah,
that was kind of how it looked during the game, because every time he dropped back, somebody was wide open. So.
And tell me you didn't think it was awesome that Gronk caught 2 touchdowns. I mean, I thought that was really awesome.
Listen, most of my family found it odd that I could be okay. I liked the Chiefs. I was rooting for Mahomes, the whole 9 yards. The whole family was rooting for them. Tom Brady not wearing a New England uniform, Gronkowski not wearing a New England uniform, made it a lot easier as a Jet fan.
Oh yeah.
To watch them win, because any Jet fan has a legitimate, rightful problem with Belichick. He left the Jets at the altar, took the head coaching job, and then resigned before ever doing anything, and set them in shambles for years to come. Tom Brady did nothing to the Jets. He merely was drafted into the division and became the greatest quarterback of all time. No reason to actually hate him other than jealousy. But I have real dislike for Belichick, and rightfully so as a Jet fan. So it was nice to see him, separate from Belichick and now win a title. And that's got to be a shot to Belichick. He's going to feel that for years to come.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Let me ask you this, and this is an interesting topic, I think. And you got Tom Brady, who's played for 20 seasons, 21 seasons, whatever it is. He's won 7 Super Bowls. He's been to 10 Super Bowls. So basically every other year he's in the Super Bowl, which is incredible. The guy, he's got some NFL records. If he plays another year, he's going to probably own almost all the NFL records. So this guy is, and I think the consensus is that he is the GOAT. He is the greatest quarterback ever. So the big question now is, if you've achieved all this in your lifetime, you're 43 years old, you've played for 20 seasons already, you just won another Super Bowl with another team showing you're the first guy that's won a Super Bowl with teams in the AFC and the NFC. That had never been done before either, which is interesting. Like, why would you still play?
I mentioned on our last podcast that would there, and I argued for a minute that there could potentially be a pull to say, if I can actually achieve this gigantic, at the time seemed like a big hurdle, beat Mahomes,
Yeah.
would I be pulled in a direction to retire at 43, owning most of the records, 7th ring? I'm going down in history. Nobody's catching me. I think we all agreed, with the exception of, I think, on the mark, Mr. Mark. I think we all agreed that it was almost virtually impossible for Mahomes to catch Brady.
Yeah.
As the GOAT. And I really think it is impossible. So why would you come back? I mean, it's got to be for his love of the game. Has to be.
Yep.
The only reason you put your body through it again. But it's a brand, the TB12 brand. He wants to become a billionaire. What better way than proof of concept? I'm 43, still doing it. And I'm just a regular old Joe. I would think there's got to be from a legacy perspective, and from an unforgettable way to leave type situation, there still has to be some people in his court, even maybe his wife, that's got to be saying, man, you can't end better than this. So do what you want to do, but understand the likelihood you can ever end walking off your home field winning a Super Bowl is almost not, it's not possible, right?
No,
I mean, he'd have to repeat, and not only repeat, he'd have to have another magnificent season. He had a magnificent year.
Yeah, it was tremendous.
So the odds he can do all of that again and then win 3 games and win the Super Bowl, highly unlikely. So he probably is signing up for a worse ending to his career than today.
Well, yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that the reason that he's still playing is just because, all the things that you said, but I think the guy's just having fun, and I think there's something to be said when you're financially secured, your legacy is secured. You've got nothing to play for except for the love of the game. That's it. There's nothing else to play for. He's done everything. He's won every award possible. He is the greatest quarterback of all time, whether he walks away from the game this year or 5 years from now, it doesn't make a difference. It's not a situation like Joe Namath that went to, where'd he go? The Rams for the last year and he was terrible, or Johnny Unitas, who went to the Chargers for his last year and he was terrible, or Brett Favre, who bounced around. So you got guys that are actually trying to hold on. And this is a situation where he's not trying to hold on. He is playing at an unbelievably high level. The guy doesn't get hit. The guy really doesn't have to move. I mean, if you're, and then if you think about next year, right? I'm guessing that Godwin is probably not going to come back, but you're going to have Mike Evans. Antonio Brown is going to come back. He's going to work his tail off in the offseason. He's going to be in fantastic shape. He's probably going to come back and have a great year next year. Gronk is probably going to get really serious in the offseason. Remember, he decided late that he was going to come back. So he's going to work really hard to come back. You got all these weapons. I think that I'm hearing rumors that some of the guys on the team are actually willing to restructure their contracts for the next year so that they can make another run at this thing. So when you put all that together, he's enjoying living in Florida. He probably, likes the guys on the team. It's just a different situation. And I think it's fun. A lot of times if you're in a stale situation, for too long, it just gets old. And now he's gone someplace new, and now it's new and it's fun and it's exciting. And it's just different. He's away from Belichick's shadow. He is now the greatest. It's not Brady Belichick anymore. They were an unbelievable team, but let's be honest, okay? Brady is the man. I still think Belichick is an unbelievable coach to get as much as he got out of teams that basically had nothing. I mean, to do what he's done in the free agency era is just crazy. But it's fun to see Brady and to see him. I mean, here's a guy that like doesn't put anything bad in his body. He's like, his brand is like this. And then you see him and he's like completely wasted. He needs Phil Calise to hold him up as he's walking down the street. It's kind of cool to see, it's kind of cool to see.
And I think with Belichick, you have to separate the incredible game day coach, the incredible talent development aspect of, right? The way he develops talent, and the game day coach, he's as good as it gets on Sundays. And then separate where he gets a knock is his GM ability.
Yeah.
He as somebody who's had to make some big decisions and who to sign, and we can keep letting more and more talent go because we're going to penny pinch some of these guys. Also drove Brady nuts over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Kept taking less money, and then they weren't giving him the talent he needed as he was aging. And then you see the flip side of Brady picking, although if you hear all the stories, Brady was looking to go to San Francisco. If you hear the stories, and they didn't want him, believe it or not. They thought old Jimmy G was good enough. So he goes down to Tampa, but then he's able to bring the players he thinks he can win with. And I do think a lot of, when you look at what he did, I mean, even Antonio Brown made a difference in that Super Bowl, even though oddly enough, he ran the wrong route. They were joking in that touchdown. He did help. And who didn't help in that Super Bowl? Mike Evans did basically nothing. He didn't do much. Godwin did basically nothing. All the big catches were Gronkowski. You think about obviously Antonio Brown with the touchdown, and he had another big third down catch. And then you think about Fournette, who also went to play with Brady.
Yeah.
And you think about in that, I know it wasn't, Evans had a big game against the Packers and Godwin had some moments in the playoffs, but in the Super Bowl, when it was all said and done, he went to old reliable Gronk, got some big runs out of Fournette, went to AB for a touchdown. It wasn't the old guard Bucks that were really involved. It was Tom and his cast-offs. It was
all the guys all the guys that came to play with him were the guys that shined in the Super Bowl.
But let's not make light of the fact a repeat champion hasn't happened since Brady in 04, 05, or 03, 04, whatever that was. It's a hell of a lift to repeat.
It's
inevitably
tough,
the Bucks will have some of their talented pass rushers leave. They will have some parts they can't afford. And Brady is a year older, even though he's aging like a fine wine. And he may have 1 or 2 great years left in him, but it's going to be a heck of a task to repeat. It just is. I mean, any big injury could pop up. It's just football. It's tough. The Chiefs are going to come back ready and, ready to explode back on the scene. So we'll see what happens, but 7 rings.
It's interesting, and I think we can kind of pivot from Tom Brady and even think about how, maybe teams this offseason are looking and saying, hey, look at the big change that Tampa Bay made. They brought in a quarterback and they were able to get to the Super Bowl. And I think maybe that influenced some of these things that we've seen. I mean, I can't remember a time where I've seen so many starting quarterbacks actually on the trading block or looking to move. I mean, we just saw the big Goff and Stafford trade. I mean, you really don't see that kind of a trade. Normally when these guys have the starters, they sign them for a long time, and these guys are the starter for forever. So, what's going on is, do you think that the Tom Brady success is really having an effect on free agency, and what's going on with all these quarterbacks? You're hearing all kinds of rumblings out there.
I do think. So you got a couple of different moving parts here, but I can't recall ever really talented quarterbacks being even talked about as being available. Now let's see how much actually happens, right? We're in the rumor mill. This is, the age of information at our fingertips, lots of BS rumors, lots of stuff just thrown out there. But we know for a fact there was a giant trade in terms of Stafford for Goff. That was still one excellent starting quarterback being traded for let's face it, an inconsistent young quarterback. But I can understand why both teams made the trade. The Rams are win now. Stafford definitely improves that chance. The Lions saw something in Goff that they said, you know what, if we're rebuilding, he's better than a rookie in the draft. We feel like we got something with Goff. We think there's something there. But when you look at Aaron Rodgers rumblings of him being unhappy, Russell Wilson, the latest one to come out, and basically, I think Russell Wilson's was a direct. He sat at that Super Bowl, ironically, And I think as he was probably thinking about his career and where
Yep.
it's went,
Yep.
and he's saying, wait, Tom Brady got out of his situation at the age he was at, brought the players he wanted with him. He doesn't get hit. I get beat up a ton. Seattle apparently does not give him any say so or really talk to him about any moves.
Yeah.
And they underachieved. They made the blockbuster trade for our boy Adams. Did not work. Let's face it. We
Yep.
don't take too much credit as Jet fans for getting trades right. But right now, you would say the Jets won that trade. Adams
Yep.
didn't move the needle at all for them winning.
Nope.
And
Nope.
Russell Wilson gets beat up a lot. So he's chirping to the media. Aaron Rodgers is, I don't think he's going anywhere. He's Aaron Rodgers, but there is talk about him.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
Carson Wentz. Listen, he's a much better version of Goff. People want Carson Wentz. Sounds like he's getting traded. There's the big elephant in the room is Deshaun Watson, been going on for weeks. We know he's saying he refuses to play for Houston again. These are heavy hitters. These are big-time quarterbacks, especially Watson and Wilson. And then you got the lesser ones like Darnold and what's going to happen with him. That's a lot of people changing hands.
Well,
if even a fraction of this happens.
Oh, you also have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
You've got Trubisky, who was also another starting quarterback. So,
Yeah.
you've got a lot of starting quarterbacks out there. And I think the Aaron Rodgers story is really, really interesting. And I think we talked about this on the podcast about how he was so angry that they drafted a quarterback in the first round. He wanted more offense, more, linemen, receivers, running back, whatever. He wanted some more weapons around him, and that's who they took. And I think it really pissed him off to the point that, we had argued about that. Well, not really argued. We discussed it. Hey, is this going to have a positive or a negative effect on him? And with how competitive he is, obviously he just won MVP, so it had a positive effect on him. But I'm hearing now that he's due for a $500,000 workout bonus if he works out with the team in the offseason. And he's already said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I mean, you've got way too much money when you can just say, no, I don't want your $500,000. But he basically is going to break them. That's basically what he's going to do. He is going to demand now it's not personal anymore. Now it's strictly business. He owes the Packers nothing. They turned their back on him. I think that's how he looks at it. And now he's saying, hey, you know what? You made that decision. Well, guess what? Now you're going to have to make another decision, and you're going to have to pay me. I don't know what he's going to get, $50 million a year. I mean, and he'll hold out for whatever he wants, because guess what? If they don't sign him, I know there's other teams that will.
Yeah, and I think where I would probably say the NBA superstars have way too much power and leverage.
Yep.
And they just come and go and demand absurd things, and they get everything they want. Any NBA superstar, he says, I want to be traded, they make it happen. It just seems like the NBA superstars run the NBA. The NFL superstars do not run the NFL.
No.
I mean, I think it needs to be a better balance. I think the NBA is too far one way, but the NFL superstars, I mean, it all favors the owners and the organizations. You hold out, you give them massive fines, then there's very little leverage unless you've made a ton of money and can just afford to just sit. It's tough. I mean, look, Le'Veon Bell ruined his career over it.
Yeah.
He made a point to say, I'm going to sit out and you could play this game of chicken. And he got paid by the Jets, but he's never been the same.
No, he's done.
That year did not rejuvenate him and make him better. That year made him stale and lose his edge, and he never returned.
That's right.
And there's other guys like that, that it didn't work out so well. The NFL's tough. So these superstar quarterbacks, like I understand Russell Wilson saying, I got a short shelf life here. Either let me be involved in some decisions or get me out of here. Yeah. And Watson's pulling the ultimate power play. If he's not playing a game of chicken, Watson has flat out said, I'm not coming back, guys. So get the most you could get from me, or I'm going to sit out. I don't know if he really means it, but the Texans seem to be going back with him saying, no, you're staying. So we'll see.
He also signed a $40 million a year contract. So,
but he hasn't been paid that much yet in his career.
No, that's exactly right.
Money,
not like that. So it's a tough game. It's a tough game. We can talk about football, and the nice thing is about football now, it doesn't end when the season ends. There's always stuff going on in football, which is exciting. And I think that's why it's become such a popular sport. But excitingly enough, it's fun to hear, you and I being, you're a Mets fan, I'm an Orioles fan, and the teams haven't been very good lately. I mean, the Orioles haven't been good in almost 40 years now, but it's always great when you have spring training that's right around the corner because there's so much optimism in the air. And here we are, and spring training is starting this upcoming week, and it's really exciting. So my question to you is, since they're going to have the full spring training, do you see that this year there's going to be much better pitching than there was last year? Last year, I mean, it was basically just a couple weeks, and then they stopped and they started again. And the pitchers, because it's really the pitchers that are the ones that need the extra time, not the hitters and not the fielders. I mean, that stuff can be done pretty quickly. But I mean, pitching is another story. So, do you think that we're going to see some really good pitching performances this year, given that there's a whole complete spring training of 6 weeks?
It's interesting. Pitching early in the season usually dominates hitting historically. Half the games are played in cold weather cities to start the season. So pitching usually is actually in front of hitting because as much as you hit in the cages in the off season, as much as you do indoor work, you can't simulate 98-mile-an-hour fastballs and
That's right.
big breaking curveballs. So usually pitching is ahead of hitting. I think an interesting angle is going to be how do pitchers handle the rigors of a full season when they're all very low off innings counts last year.
Yeah.
And who actually can handle the fact that, let's face it, a lot of these guys threw 60, 80, 90, 100 innings max.
That's right.
And now they need to stretch back out to 200 plus or, upper 175 plus.
Yep.
I think that'll be interesting. I think the looming elephant in the room with the fact that 10 days before the season, pitchers and catchers report, they didn't really make a decision on the DH. I think is a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your sport. You're leaving teams not knowing whether to sign a bat, not knowing what they're supposed to do. In the National League case, American League is in better position for that. They have the DH anyway. But yeah, the pitching is going to be interesting. I think the pitching will be ahead of the hitting like it normally is. I don't think that's a big deal. But I do think the rigors of a full season and what that looks like will be interesting to who it catches up to in August and September. What young pitchers who basically didn't pitch at all or pitched very limited are going to be asked to stretch out full seasons. I think that could be interesting.
And people forget that there was virtually there was really no minor league play last year at all.
Virtually none. They had that pool
I think
of players.
Yeah, they had some, but that was it. Yeah.
Very few.
Yeah.
Very
So
few.
it's interesting. So it's interesting what you said about the DH decision, and obviously it brings us to a question of, is Major League Baseball really the worst run of the four major sports? And that kind of leaves me saying yes. And I think the reason for that is I think their Players Association is just the most powerful thing around.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what it is. They have so much pull that that things just don't get done on time, and eventually they do, but they're so powerful they don't want to give in to the owners all the time.
No, they're 100% the most powerful sports union there is. It's not close. I mean, listen, they've had guaranteed contracts for how long in baseball?
I know.
And guaranteed contracts 40, 30 years ago when guys were making, $1 million was, not so hard to swallow. But when pitchers make $250 million 7-year contracts and miss 2 of those years with Tommy John surgery, that's when you say, oh my God. And I think the owners in baseball and the marketing side of baseball has never been able to successfully pivot to the idea that it's the oldest game. It's been around forever. And there's always that pull between the old school baseball fans and the old unwritten rules and that side of baseball and the young generation. And as baseball has become less popular every decade since probably it peaked in the 70s or 80s. It's not done a good job of marketing its best players. It's not done a good job of really understanding where to pick its battles with the union. And to say, you know what, we could grow this game so much by having the Mike Trouts be more of a household name. And instead, they've always resisted that. And they've never had a great answer for kids turning away from baseball. I mean, they've said, in terms of like inner city areas, there's not baseball available, so it's not becoming popular there. It's a longer grind to make it in baseball, right? The minor leagues is a rigorous situation. There's no immediacy. There's no immediate reward in baseball. You got to grind your way to the top. I think there's that, but they haven't done a good job of marketing it. And I'll make one prediction with the fighting that happened last year with the pandemic and how it almost lost the whole season.
Yep.
And with the fact that this year they still couldn't really agree to much. And the owners are holding out on the DH, thinking it's some chip they can play later. And the union stayed steadfast. They didn't agree to the 1 month delay, which seemed reasonable, right? So they just don't like each other.
Yep.
The contracts run out at the end of this year. We are headed, without some major epiphany that comes, we are headed for a ugly, ugly lockout. I'm going to make that prediction.
Wow.
2022, baseball does not start on time, and there's a real chance we don't have baseball in 2022. I think we are headed for an Armageddon situation here. So
interesting.
I think we're headed for the ugliest lockout in a long time. So
wow, that'll definitely be something to look out for. It's interesting. I haven't heard much about that, so I look forward to talking about that in the future as the season goes on. I want to talk to you about a couple of the rules that are being extended this year that I really don't like. I think there's 3 rules I wanted to bring up, and I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of the 7-inning doubleheaders. I still think that's super strange. Not a fan of that. I still, I'm so tired of them coddling to all these guys. Grow a set, play 9 innings. I mean, enough is enough. Okay, let's play full games here. 7 innings. What is this, college?
But if I was making a counterpoint, my bigger issue is nobody pitches more than 5 or 6 innings anymore.
That is also
these guys don't go anymore. You don't get a complete game out of anybody. You're into your 4th bullpen guy in the 9th inning. So
I mean, it's so. Let me ask you this though: how did guys way back when, even as far back as just the 70s? I mean, these guys, there were guys that were throwing 300 innings.
It's all money. It's all money.
4 days rest, 300 innings. These guys are doing it year in, year out, and they're fine.
Now there's about 8 guys who throw 200 innings.
It's unbelievable. It's
money though. I invest 35 million in my starting pitcher, or 20 million, or 15 million, and then they get coddled. It's not good for baseball. I don't think it's good at all. But that 7-inning thing's here to stay. I have a strong feeling that's not going anywhere.
I don't like it. I also, and I know you and I are kind of on different pages with this, but once you get to the 10th inning, they start with a runner on second base. I don't like that. That's like what is that, like in college football where you get the ball on the 25?
No, I don't like it either. No, I don't.
You
don't
like
that
it. I thought you did like it. Yeah.
I don't like it. One thing I would say is I do think they have to do something about the idea. And this is like a semantics thing. I don't like the 16, 17 inning game. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think it's good for the viewer in the stands. It's the only sport that doesn't have a time limit. So the fact that a game could literally go 7 hours when they play 162 games to me is ridiculous. So what I would do is I would say you play 12 innings. If nobody wins, then you go to a runner on second base, or you adopt some type of speed it up at that point strategy, where you make the first 3 innings, you can win it, normal baseball, and then you draw a line in the sand and you say at certain inning, we need to get this game over with, or you allow ties, which I don't love, but you know what? If you want to do it that way too, you could allow a tie after 12 innings, something like that. I'm okay with that. Something. But 17, 18 inning marathons where they play the next afternoon and it screws up the rotation, it messes up everything for a week. I don't think we need that either. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you've always had that.
I know, but I'm saying that's a modern thing I could see doing away with.
It's funny because there's so many, they refer to them as baseball purists, and there's so many out there, yet they're supporting all these changes. It's like, well, do you want the game to stay the same? Do you not? I mean, make up your mind already. So, I mean, I think there's positives and negatives about both. And the rule that I personally don't like is I don't like the reliever with the 3-batter minimum.
Mm-hmm.
I liked going to an Orioles game and seeing a 68-year-old Jesse Orosco come into the game to face one lefty and then leave the game. The guy had 130 appearances, and I think he ended up pitching like 8 innings. So
I like this new rule change, but I like it more from a purist perspective. This is my thought. I don't like the idea that there's 85 pitching changes in a game. So before you come in to just bring that lefty to get the lefty out, you got to be prepared that if he doesn't get him out, you can't just switch. Like, there's more. You got to end. You got to get the 1 out, or you got to end, or you got to face 3 batters. I like that because I've sat through games. I've been to a bunch of Met games, and I've sat through the painful righty on righty. Then they go to the pinch hitter Then they go back to the mound to get the guy who didn't even throw a pitch because now they switched back the other way. And you just wasted 15 minutes and nobody threw a pitch. Okay. So like that stuff I could do without at this point in my life.
You're giving the hitting team the advantage here. There's no advantage to the pitcher now because now you can't prepare for the next 3 batters because they can just bring in pinch hitters.
Understood.
No, so I don't know, man.
No. You're right about that. I just, really at the end of the day, it's a speed up the game rule. That was the thought behind it.
That's all it is.
More mindful. That's what it is. Well, the games do take an astronomical amount of time.
Yeah, but you know what?
When you were growing up, the games were 2 hours, 2:10, 2:20. Every game's 3+ hours now.
Well, yeah. Well, now, I mean, it's because every game has 7 pitchers. I mean, you can't just have.
You just answered it. Well, you just kind of worked against your argument there. That's the problem.
No, yeah. My argument is that they don't let the starting pitchers pitch enough.
And I think that's true. But that's not changing.
That's the argument.
Yeah,
but that's the problem.
Jacob deGrom on opening day is not going to be allowed to throw 132 pitches. He's going to be pulled at 95 pitches, 6 2/3 with a shutout. I mean,
how many?
That's what's going to happen.
I'm going to
be kicking the screen when they blow the game.
He's going to have allowed no earned runs, but they're going to be down 5-0. I mean, it is what it is. So
sounds like a mecca.
So it's interesting. What do you think about Trevor Bauer? I know he's making a lot of money, and I know you're kind of pissed off about him because he ended up signing with the Dodgers, and there was indications he was going to some other team. But listen, I looked at his stats before last year. They were good. Okay. Last year, he has a really great season. Over what? How many games did he pitch? 10 games?
Yeah, short season. Mm-hmm.
Do you really give that much money to a guy that pitched that well for 10 games? There's guys every season that start off the year really, really great, have an unbelievable first 10-game stretch. And then at the end of the year, you look at their stats and they have a 4 ERA. So, is this guy over that period of time, do you really think he's worth all that money?
So I think it's why the offers he thought he was going to get weren't there. And the 2 big organizations that are throwing money around these days, outside of the Yankees, maybe, the Mets and Dodgers were willing to give him a boatload of money for short term. They weren't sure. They were hedging that he's not the great pitcher he showed last year, but they were willing to go above and beyond in a short-term deal, which is what the 2 offers were. They were identical offers, basically. They were like 3 years, $100 million. And it was all up front. It was all guaranteed in the first 2 years and what have you. So I think the mystery on Trevor Bauer at 30 years old, is he ascending into a dominant pitcher, or did he have a good 20 starts and he's a number 3 who just got paid like a true ace. So we'll see. I don't think anybody knows for sure. Yeah. I do think he went to a great team and will probably help him win a lot. So.
Oh my God. I mean, come on.
So he's going to probably get a lot of W's in the column. So.
Oh yeah. I would put him, as long as he's healthy, he's going to win some games. Yeah, that's good. Another thing that I want to talk about, and this is basically the last thing that I wanted to mention was, they always have their Major League Baseball comes out with their list of top 100 prospects. And I'm super excited that the Orioles have the number 2 overall prospect in baseball. That's fantastic because they never have any good prospects. So I'm really excited about that. But the number 1 prospect is a guy named Wander Franco, who's actually a shortstop for Tampa Bay. And they claim that I read a big article about it yesterday. They claim he's the best number 1 prospect since Mike Trout and Bryce Harper, which is saying a lot. They're saying this guy is a generational talent. This is his second number 1 ranking in a row. And even more incredibly, he's 19 years old and he's never played above single A. All right. He's being invited to spring training, which is pretty incredible. Here's his stats, right? In 763 minor league at bats, he's batting .336. Okay. So it's solid, but there's a lot of guys that do well. The thing that really impressed me is that his walk percentage is 10.8%. His strikeout percentage is 7%.
Wow.
So here's a guy that bats .336. He walks more than he strikes out. He's an incredible hitter. He got virtually the highest hitting grade that you can get. I think he's ranked as like an 80, which I think is the highest grade that you can get. But I mean, my God, this guy, I mean, I can't wait to see this guy. I mean, let's just say, I hope he ends up being a generational player. To be number 1 ranked for 2 years in a row at age 19, never playing above single A.
Yeah.
Man, if he's really that good, I mean, that's
And he'll
impressive. And Tampa
probably,
Bay just keeps doing that.
yeah, no, they're a great organization. I mean, they don't have the money, so they don't have a chance to sustain championship greatness, because as soon as those players develop and get good, they leave to get paid.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
which stinks. But I would guess if he's that good, he's got to crack the majors at September call-ups this year. I mean, you would think.
You would think so. I mean,
A
listen,
lot of the
I
top
don't
players
know.
go right from AA, so he probably is going to start in AA this year and have a shot at the majors by September. I would think. That's fun. That's good to hear.
I would think, you know how these guys do it. They delay them a little bit to get that extra service time.
Right.
I think that he could. I agree. I mean, I'd love to see him have a hot spring training, go down to AA for 6 weeks, be batting .350, and them saying, hey, you know what? This guy's 19 years old. He's just that good. We got to bring him up. I would love to see him playing early, and I'd love to see him win Rookie of the Year. I think that would be an incredible story. But who knows?
We'll see.
So anyway, that's all I got, my man. I need to go and I need to message Terrell Davis and see how he's doing now that he and I are like this.
Tell TD I gave him a salute. Remember his salute when he scored touchdowns? Give him the salute.
That's right. Remember the Clarence Scott salute when he would get an interception?
No. Get that guy on the podcast.
No. I don't either. I'm gonna have to I'll do some research on him, and then we'll talk about it on the next podcast. I'll let you know what I come up with, and then we'll make a decision as to whether or not we try to call this guy.
Could be a little a future segment of the podcast. We dial famous people and see if we can get them on spontaneously. Impromptu calls.
You know, the interesting thing about that is you can find enough phone numbers out there.
Hey. And then you just act like they're supposed to be on. Your agent didn't tell you? You got a spot on the Phil and the Mike podcast. What's going on? How are you?
Congratulations.
You didn't know we were calling you right now? All right, well, you got 10 minutes? Come on.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But oh man, well, great show as always, man. I am loving this new Zoom format. I think we're going to continue and we do have a guest coming on next time. The reason that she wasn't on today is because I couldn't get her out of bed this morning.
Hey, tell Brooke I said hello.
But Brooke, who just turned 15 last week, so happy birthday, Brookie. And we're going to have her on. She's going to talk a little bit about high school life during COVID. And also we're going to hear the results of her driving test, where she potentially can get her learner's permit on Tuesday.
Nice, big moments.
Yeah, not for me, but it's a big moment for her. So we'll see what happens, but that'll be exciting. We got a lot more good stuff going on, and we've got some great guests lined up, and continue this format because it's just been a lot of fun. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and hope you're enjoying it. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Phil and the Mike.
Take care, everyone.